Bullets tear through the home of a murdered Baltimore teen.
This was not, shooting into the sky to send a warning. These were bullets fired into the house.
As the family of Deontay Dorsey moves to safety, Fox 45 News looks at what lawmakers are doing to protect witnesses. Mayor Brandon Scott has reached a deal with BGE over Baltimore's underground infrastructure, why his colleagues say the Board of Estimates vote should never have happened. With math test scores dropping in Baltimore public schools, Fox 45 News Project Baltimore investigates why cuts are being proposed to a program allowing families more choice where kids go to school. Is Baltimore's new law cracking down on street racing working? The evidence put forth by a council member who backed the bill.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We are following breaking news in Towson right now, where we're hearing reports of another shooting near Towson Circle, just steps from the movie theater.
You can see from Citizen app video of that incident on the right side of your screen. There's also a heavy police presence in that Towson area.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45's Jeff Abel is live right now. He joins us with more. Jeff?
That's right. We are right here in the heart of Towson, where the Towson Circle is just one block that way. And then right over here, a block that way, is the entrance to the Towson Town Center. And right down here, right on Delaware Street, in the heart of the community, is where the bullets started flying tonight. We do have some pictures of the scene taken just moments after the gunfire rocked this area this evening. We understand one man was hit by the gunfire and fell in the middle of Delaware Street here earlier tonight. We have heard he is in very serious condition as well. Neighbors in a nearby apartment tower that towers over this area could only watch in horror as they saw all of this go down.
The only thing that I saw, which was talking with the neighbor, is that the neighbor heard about 5 shots. And once the shots happened, apparently there was an individual that walked over to the victim and looked at that victim and then walked away. And I don't know if the police apprehended that individual or not.
As you can see, police still very much an active investigation going on here in Towson. A 2-block area from the Circle all the way down to the entrance of the mall still blocked off. It's been blocked off for about an hour and a half this evening. And so far, we are waiting on information about who may have started this shooting and why. It's still very much unclear. We'll keep you updated for live in Towson tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. We'll check back in with you as well. As Jeff mentioned, Towson has seen a number of violent incidents lately within just a few blocks of each other. It started in late December when police say 7 juveniles were arrested in connection with a chaotic crowd at Towson Town Circle.
Now, on February 2nd, police say 3 people were sexually assaulted at gunpoint in an alley just steps from Towson Circle.
And 1 week ago, police say a man was shot at the intersection of West Towson Town Boulevard and Washington Avenue. Now, despite those incidents, we have heard county officials say Towson is a safe place.
This is not the norm. Towson is a very safe, it's a vibrant place. I have a daughter who's 17 who's planning on, she's accepted into Towson, and if I didn't think it was a safe place, I wouldn't let her go to Towson.
Well, we want to hear from you. Do you feel safe in Towson? This poll just opened. So far, 100% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab to weigh in.
Fox 45 News will continue to demand answers from Baltimore County leaders about the recent violence in Towson. You can find all of our reporting, including our questioning of Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski, on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Authorities say someone opened fire into the home of a grieving family.
16-year-old Deontay Dorsey was shot and killed at the Edmondson Village Shopping Center last month. His family has been open about their calls for justice.
Family attorney Tharu Vignaraja says while no one was physically hurt, the emotional toll is huge.
This family is in grief. They are in mourning. It's only been 6 or 7 weeks, and now they have to worry about their children, their loved ones, their extended family being in further danger.
Well, now both state and city leaders are making moves to make coming forward safer and encourage witnesses to cooperate with police.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live right now with a closer look at this case and what lawmakers are doing. Keith?
Well, Kai and Mary, the shooting at the Dorsey family home happened just hours after the family stood in support of the arrest of the 16-year-old boy in connection to this case. And tonight, questions over whether that support triggered the shooting. In Baltimore, it's a city gripped by a history of a silent culture, the so-called stop snitching attitude. Residents concerned about their safety who keep quiet about crimes, unwilling to help police. Tonight, speculation over whether family members of murdered 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey could be the latest victims of that troubling silent culture. The family's attorney, Tharu Vignaraja, says early Saturday morning, someone opened fire on the Dorsey's family home. Now police investigating the shooting at the home.
One of the bullets went through the window, another hit the door. This is incredibly troubling.
The stop snitching phenomenon, perhaps unforgettable and memorialized with the deaths of the Dawson family 2 decades ago. The family's home on East Preston Street set on fire in October 2002. Angela Dawson, her husband, and 5 children all killed when a drug dealer firebombed the home while the Dawsons were inside. Police called it an act of retaliation after the mother had continuously called police about the drug dealing happening near her home.
The citizens, just like the Dawsons, really do want to participate.
Former FBI agent Tyrone Powers remembers the crime all these years later, and he says not much has changed in Baltimore since 2002.
In terms of people not necessarily engaging the police then were the same issues we were dealing with now.
Still, the push for residents to come forward when they witness a crime. In Annapolis last week, Delegate Kaylin Young of Baltimore City supporting a bill that would increase rewards for people who offer information that leads to a conviction in homicide cases. Money to supplement the city's existing Metro Crime Stoppers program.
You guys always request information to come from the community, and the price has always been $2,000 to $8,000, and that is so, low compared to what you're requesting from the community.
Well, the Baltimore City Council also pushed legislation to bolster cash rewards for tips in homicide and shooting cases. That bill signed by Mayor Brandon Scott last March. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Congressman Kwesi Mfume is trying to protect people who come forward as witnesses of crime with his proposed Witness Security and Grant Program Act of 2023. It would allocate $150 million over 5 years to protect people who come forward as witnesses of crime. The congressman says he hopes this bill will help fight stop snitching culture.
We often say, if you see something, say something. Well, we've got to protect the people who want to say something.
You can find more on this bill on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
The fight over Baltimore's conduit contract with BGE is not over. City Comptroller Bill Henry doubling down on his claim the deal was rushed, telling Fox 45 News he wants to see projections and historical data showing it would be a good deal or not.
We should be expecting that the consultant that we hired last fall and are paying $50,000 to study the conduit issue, we should expect that they should finish their report and present that information to residents and officials before we make any decision.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has continuing coverage.
City Comptroller Bill Henry says the contract could actually help BGE get some tax breaks, noting he does not believe the contract has been finalized with the city yet. That's the exact opposite of what Mayor Brandon Scott and his administration are saying. They believe the contract was finalized during last week's BOE meeting. So we went through the city's charter to figure out what's going on.
The city should not rush into this agreement.
This last Board of Estimates meeting turning up the heat on the debate that's been simmering for a while.
I've been asked to share a statement on behalf of
City Council President Nick Mosby and Comptroller Bill Henry boycotting the meeting in protest.
We have no other recourse than to remove ourselves from today's meeting, eliminating the required quorum of 5 members to vote on all board matters.
But Mayor Brendan Scott, Acting Solicitor Ebony Thompson, and outgoing Public Works Director Jason Mitchell giving the conduit contract with BGE the green light.
This is not the way that we wanted to do this, but left without choice, this is the way that we have to do this.
We have 2 noted abstentions. This matter is approved.
The mayor's office telling Fox 45 News Friday the solicitor is confident that the BOE rules and charter permitted the majority present to proceed with the meeting. Article 6, Section 2 of the city's charter requires the BOE to set up their own rules. Those rules adopted January 2022. The 5 members or their designees make up a quorum, and a quorum necessary to vote. But in this case, Mosby and Henry didn't send anyone in their place, so they were simply absent, which is why Henry says the contract wasn't approved and will be discussed again.
We did not attend last Wednesday's meeting as scheduled, and as such, they did not have quorum.
Based on Thompson and the mayor's comments, it appears the city's acting solicitor conflating Mosby and Henry's absence with abstaining from voting. The contract gives BGE control of the city's underground conduit system. BGE expected to pay Baltimore $134 million for conduit improvements between now and 2027. BGE also set to pay $1.5 million a year in fees to the city. The deal approved by the mayor on February 15th, in time for BGE to turn around and include the capital improvements in their rate hike proposal to the Public Service Commission submitted Friday evening, calling to increase the average gas and electric customer's monthly bill $10.36 each month for each year of the 3-year proposal. Henry says the city was forced to rush the conduit deal so BGE could get tax benefits from the investments.
Instead of paying us a fee, BGE can do the work themselves and take advantage of all sorts of different tax breaks so that they will be effectively paying less money to do what is effectively about the same amount of work.
Vowing to get more answers, Henry says the contract details could be revealed during an investigative hearing Thursday, noting the contract, along with the hundreds of other items skipped during the last Board of Estimates meeting, will be back on the March agenda.
It's possible that by the time we get to March 1st, we will have done the level of due diligence that the council president and I feel is necessary to make a final decision on this. But it is certainly not done yet.
The Public Service Commission will begin public hearings on BGE's proposed 5% increase at the end of March. The PSC could reject the hike, scale it back, or simply accept it. A decision is expected by the end of the year. We know that Comptroller Henry and Council President Nick Mosby have asked the Attorney General's office to get involved and investigate, but AG Anthony Brown's office tells me they don't have any comment on this. In the meantime, that City Council investigative hearing is set to begin at 5 o'clock on Thursday. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, we want to know what you think. Does the BGE conduit deal need to be put on hold? So far, 92% of those who've responded say yes. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
Well, we are tracking the potential of some showers overnight. Notice just west of our area up in the mountains on the Blue Ridge, we've got some rain right now, but there's more where that came from. And then there's a big wintry component to the system that's out to the west. Well, you can expect overnight into early tomorrow morning are a couple of sprinkles and light showers, and then the blustery winds pick up, but temperatures still stay warm for tomorrow. We'll be tracking the rain hour by hour on the future scan coming up in a couple of minutes. And I'll let you know when we can make a run at 80 in a few.
Still ahead on Fox 45 News at 10 o'clock tonight. Warmer weather is bringing out a familiar problem in Baltimore City. Street racing and dirt bikes. The latest incident and why one city leader says this season will be different. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis visits 3 states to address a rise in crime. What he's saying and how it could play into a possible run for the White House. Also ahead after the break, a program that gives families more school choice is in jeopardy. Baltimore is demanding answers.
As recent test scores raise concern over Baltimore City Public Schools, a program that gives families more school choice is now in jeopardy.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, the move could impact thousands of low-income students who will no longer have an alternative to their public school.
This is more than just about an education.
Nefertari Lee is a mom from Baltimore City. Earlier this month, she testified in Annapolis about a program called Boost, which she says changed her son's life.
He's gone on to college and is thriving.
Boost is a state program that offers scholarships, similar to vouchers, to students from low-income families, allowing them to attend parochial and other non-public schools. According to state data, since the program was created in 2016, it's awarded about 20,000 scholarships. The average household income of a recipient is about $35,000. Students from the lowest income families are given priority. Last year, the program had about 3,200 recipients, mostly minority students from Baltimore County and Baltimore City.
These kids are our future.
When Lee's son was young, his zoned school in Baltimore City was Johnston Square Elementary. One of the 23 schools where Project Baltimore recently found 0 students among those tested scored proficient in math. Lee says Boost allowed her son to leave that school for private school in Baltimore County, where he thrived.
Bryce was accepted into every single college he applied to.
But now that program appears to be in jeopardy.
I can't believe anybody would oppose this opportunity. I can't believe it.
Lee went to Annapolis to speak in support of legislation introduced by State Delegate Jeff Grist, House Bill 737.
Well, this is an alternative that actually works.
The bill codifies the Boost program, making it permanent by writing it into state law. The move follows what appears to be a national trend towards more school choice.
Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty.
This month, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders unveiled a plan that would allow any student to use tax dollars for private and religious schools. And according to the Wall Street Journal, at least 19 states are considering legislation to expand school choice. But Maryland appears to be going in the opposite direction. Grist didn't introduce his bill to expand Boost. He's trying to save it.
We made the largest investment in public education by any governor in our state's history.
During his State of the State address, Governor Wes Moore pushed public education as a top priority. But Moore's budget cuts the Boost program by 20%, from $10 million to $8 million, and could prevent new students from receiving scholarships except for siblings of those already in the program.
I'm a very, very proud Baltimore resident.
Governor Moore has spoken openly about the role education played in his own success. He attended an elite private elementary school and then went on to graduate from a private military academy. But by cutting Boost, Grist says, Moore is limiting opportunities for today's students to seek a better education.
This is a lifeline that we're going to see results now. We don't have to wait 8 or 10 years when the blueprint is implemented. It may or may not work.
Project Baltimore asked Governor Moore's office why his budget cuts Boost by $2 million. We also asked, are you concerned about the impact this will have on thousands of students from low-income families? Is this the first step in phasing out the Boost program? We did not receive answers in time for broadcast.
I also come from a long union family.
Cheryl Boast is the president of Maryland's largest union, the Maryland State Education Association, which has historically opposed programs like Boost. The union says these programs hurt public schools, which lose money when students leave.
Education and the union have kind of gone hand in hand in my family.
We sent an email to Boast and the teachers union, which endorsed Moore for governor, asking for an interview to discuss providing scholarships for students who attend what are considered failing schools. we did not hear back.
The folks who are opposing this bill, they're opposing it for mainly one reason. It has everything to do with money and very little to do with the students themselves who are trapped in a desperate situation.
This Wednesday, the bill to fully restore boost funding goes before the House Ways and Means Committee. Grist, a Republican, knows it'll face significant opposition from Democrats. But he hopes stories like Lee's, and there are thousands of them, will have an impact.
The $2 million needs to stay in there and get back in there so these programs can still thrive and survive. Don't cancel the future success stories like Bryce.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis visiting several states talking about curbing crime, what he's saying, and how it plays into his political future.
And coming up at 10:30, another example of street racing in Baltimore City. Why one city councilman says a new law to crack down on that practice is working.
And after warm temperatures at 65 today, we are tracking the potential of some rain tonight. Let's go ahead and take a look at the future scan. And as we go hour by hour through 11:30, there are those showers and maybe even a couple that you may have to contend with in the morning as those move away. And then another round into tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to let you know what's to come for the PM commute and how much you're going to see and when we could have temperatures well into the 70s. My Weather Authority forecast.
Two presumed 2024 presidential candidates are spending their days very differently. President Biden is in Ukraine, while Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in Philadelphia.
The National Desk's Angela Brown caught up with the governor one-on-one.
Governor Ron DeSantis not declaring for president yet, but he's looking more like a candidate tonight, leaving Florida, barnstorming 3 states, possibly crafting his national message on crime.
Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
Governor Ron DeSantis visiting Philadelphia at a difficult time. The city of brotherly love mourning the murder of one of their own, a Temple police officer.
And I think if somebody goes out and murders a police officer, they should get the death penalty for murdering the police officer.
A Applause rumbling throughout his speech in front of dozens squeezed into the American Legion, less than 40 minutes outside of Philly, a city facing a violent crime crisis, 516 homicides last year.
We are going to get this country back. We're going to get the big cities under control.
DeSantis drawing a contrast between Florida and deep blue cities with progressive DAs, like impeached Philadelphia DA Larry Krasner, under fire for failing to prosecute some crimes and dropping cash bond for others.
We had a fella in Tampa that had said there were certain laws that he was not going to enforce or prosecute in the state of Florida that had been duly enacted by our legislature. And so I removed him from his office. He's fired.
DeSantis in New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia areas embraced inside of these events, facing backlash outside. Before stepping foot in Illinois, their governor tweeting this out. DeSantis' dangerous and hateful agenda has no place in Illinois. Republican strategist Dina Bass-Williams.
He certainly is going into the belly of the beast as it relates to cities that are struggling with crime.
Chicago is in Cook County, where the state's attorney faces scrutiny after a flurry of attorneys left, while in New York City, major crime up 22%.
How would you categorize this, these three cities in one day?
This is definitely foretelling of a presidential bid. Again, he has the book coming out. He's going into these very democratic cities to say, bring it on.
After the event, we talked to DeSantis one-on-one about the connection between crime and education, what some call the school-to-prison pipeline.
The school unions really control everything, and they are running it more based on their interests rather than the best interests of the students.
A crisis in the streets, a crisis in the classroom. Students in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, in some cases seeing test scores lower than before the pandemic. Reporting in Fort Washington, Pennsylvania, I'm Angela Brown.
Law enforcement throughout Maryland trying to help Kia drivers protect their cars amid an uptick in thefts. How you can get a lock for your steering wheel.
The outpouring of love and support for former President Jimmy Carter continues tonight as he receives hospice care. We are following three big stories at 10:30.
President Joe Biden is getting national attention with an unannounced visit to Ukraine. What he's promising and why some say he should shift his attention elsewhere.
Two young teenagers are arrested for allegedly trying to steal a car in Pasadena. The bigger trend it's part of and the steps some police departments are taking to stop it.
And as the weather starts to warm up, a familiar problem in Baltimore City is coming up once again. And the problem is stunt driving and also dirt bikes.
Now, one Baltimore City leader is saying a new law cracking down the issue is working.
Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell has a closer look.
Cell phone video captures a stunt driver in the act here in Northwest Baltimore. The screeching sound of squealing tires bringing police and City Councilman Yitzi Schleifer to this shopping plaza parking lot on Northern Parkway Sunday night.
I was able to hear it from miles away as I was driving to the location.
But this time, this common occurrence was met with what's been an uncommon outcome. Consequence. The driver, Schleifer says, was cited for a newly enacted law he introduced last year that stiffens the penalty for street racing, stunt driving, and dirt bike riding here in Baltimore. The councilman sharing these videos and pictures with Fox 45 News.
He actually ran from the police, and they were able to stop him. This driver was also, my understanding, on a learner's permit, doesn't even have a full license, and he was coming from far away from Baltimore City. The car was being towed because it was overheating and it was smoking up. They were able to cite him with multiple citations, including putting in this new law.
This new law came after repeated incidents and complaints of intersections being shut down and neighborhoods taken over. It was met with some skepticism, specifically whether police would even enforce the new law. The now former Baltimore City State's attorney was not prosecuting certain lower-level crimes, including minor traffic offenses. Schleifer believes this concrete consequence, mixed with a change in the SAO's office, will help curb these problems that have long plagued Baltimore.
The main thing for the police officers is they want to see that there's actually going to be some consequence to the behavior. They don't want to go ahead and do their part and then there be no teeth on the back end, no enforcement from the courts on the back end. And so here we have a situation where there's actually a new law in place that's a pretty strict law. It's the strictest in the state.
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
There's also action in Annapolis right now to do the same, which is crack down on street racing. A bill is introduced in the House and Senate, and that aims to increase the penalties someone can face for street racing statewide. If passed, offenders could face up to a year in prison and be fined $1,000 if the race results in someone being hurt.
The Maryland Senate will decide tomorrow whether to affirm the appointment of Vincent Schiraldi as Maryland's new Secretary of Juvenile Services. Schiraldi, who most recently oversaw the Corrections Department in New York City, has been the target of criticism. At one time, Schiraldi suggested that no criminal should be exposed to the adult system until they turn 21 or 25 years of age. He told a Senate committee last week that his philosophy centers around healing rather than punishing and endorsed mentoring and wraparound services for violent teens.
And if we can pair them with the kinds of people in those communities that are going to mentor them in the right direction, we'll get a much bigger bang for our taxpayers' buck than we will.
The Senate Nominations Committee approved the appointment last week. The full Senate will cast the final vote tomorrow.
In Anne Arundel County, police arrested two 13-year-olds for allegedly trying to steal a car. Officers responded to Antwerpen motor cars in Pasadena, where three people were seen in a Kia trying to remove the dashboard and start the vehicle with a USB cable.
Baltimore County Police giving out free steering wheel locks to help protect Hyundai cars from being stolen. The locks are available to Baltimore County residents who own a Hyundai manufactured between 2016 and 2021. You can find more on the giveaway on our website, foxbaltimore.com/newslinks. Well, Prince George's County Police had a similar giveaway today. Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station in Washington has more on this new push to protect drivers.
The double line of cars stretching around the block, Kia and Hyundai owners, drawn by the Prince George's police offer of free steering wheel clubs to protect their cars from the raging fad among car thieves who've learned they can start certain models of those brands with a USB plug.
I don't want to be the next victim.
Antoinette Carter first in line in her Kia, hoping to keep her car in a county where an average of about a dozen like it are taken each and every day.
I think it's terrible. I think they don't realize the impact that they may have on people by taking their transportation. And it's not fair.
One of the first things we noticed is not every car in line is a Hyundai or a Kia. Look at this, here's an Infiniti. Well, we talked to the people and find out that's because their cars have already been stolen.
They stole it twice within 30 days. Twice.
Brenda Slaughter in a rental while her car is fixed again. Dawn Rogers and her husband in their Honda. Their stolen Kia has been recovered, badly damaged and with a secondary issue.
In the time they stole the car till the time the car was found, we got 5 speeding tickets within 3 hours.
On and on it goes. This lady driving with a damaged ignition system.
And all the parts are on the backwaters because they have so many cars stolen.
Cascading problems for so many people because of a crime spreading across the country on social media, where there are countless videos showing how to steal a Kia. The car company now offering a free software upgrade, but that'll take time. In the meantime, police believe these clubs, in this case paid for by the car maker, are an owner's best protection. In District Heights, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Tributes to former President Jimmy Carter have started to flood in for days following the news that the former president is receiving hospice care at his home. And let's take a look at what some people are saying out in the United States right now. This is from Vice President Kamala Harris to President Carter, Rosalind, and the entire Carter family. Doug and I send you our love and our prayers. Another one coming in here. This is from Bernice King. The King Center staff and I joined the nation in prayer for our former governor, state senator, and our nation's 39th president, Jimmy Carter. I consider him a friend, as did my mother, Miss Coretta Scott King, and my grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter.
Well, one day before Carter entered hospice care at his home in Georgia Saturday, the U.S. Naval Academy announcing it is renaming a building at the Academy in his honor. The engineering building had been called Maury Hall after a leader in the Confederate Navy. It is now being called Carter Hall. Former President Jimmy Carter graduated from the Academy in 1946.
Let's take a look at the Fox box right now. In the top left, another powerful earthquake rattles Turkey. The 6.5 magnitude quake hit the same province that was devastated by another earthquake 2 weeks ago. More than 21,000 people have died.
Top right, Michigan State University students gathered at the state capitol today, demanding the school does more to keep them safe after a mass shooting on campus last week. The students say they are not ready to go back to classes, even though classes resumed today.
In the bottom left, prosecutors have dropped the possibility of a sentence enhancement in the involuntary manslaughter case against actor Alec Baldwin. Baldwin's attorneys say prosecutors made a legal error by charging him under a law that didn't exist at the time of the accident that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
Bottom right, the founder of conservative group Project Veritas says the company has forced him out. He was placed on leave, paid leave, earlier this month after complaints about his management, according to the New York Times. Well, President Joe Biden's surprise trip to Ukraine today has some re-examining how long America will provide such sweeping support for the war against Russia.
Some say without U.S. aid, Ukraine may not be able to protect itself. Others say there's another geopolitical foe that America needs to be more focused on.
Sinclair chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has the story.
It's worth fighting for as long as it takes, and that's how long we're going to be with you, Mr. President. For as long as it takes.
During that surprise visit, President Biden leaving no room for interpretation, saying the U.S. will back Ukraine without fail and offering more weaponry as part of $500 million to the country. That coupled with the roughly $113 billion given last year, about 3/5 of that toward defense needs, the rest for government aid economic support, and resettling refugees.
I think that we should take care of our own needs for our fellow Americans before sending another $100 billion to Ukraine.
President Biden, though, still stopping short of providing fighter jets, which Ukraine's leader has long pressed for, saying they're needed to push Russia back. Some argue the battle's been prolonged, that Biden waited too long, only promising tanks as the war is about to enter its second year. And tolerance could erode if there's no end in sight.
We could lose the will of the American people and therefore the Congress, and we're seeing the same dynamic in the European parliaments. Strong support now, but they're worried.
And now, potentially a dangerous new wrinkle. Word that China is considering sending lethal aid to Russia. Over the weekend, Secretary of State Antony Blinken warning China against taking that step.
Don't do this. The most catastrophic thing that could happen to U.S.-China relationship, in my opinion, that would change everything forever.
Critics insist the administration needs to be more concerned about China, especially after that suspected spy balloon crossed U.S. skies.
Protect our interests. We're not doing that, and the reason we're not doing that is we're over nation building in Ukraine.
Begging the question, Capitol Hill may overwhelmingly currently back Biden's vow to bolster Ukraine, but for how long? In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Are you satisfied with how President Biden has handled crises here at home? To answer that question, scan the QR code on your screen right now.
A key part of Ford's electric car rollout includes batteries from China, the growing concern over American companies' dependence on the country as tensions heighten.
And we've got temperatures overnight that are going to settle down to, at least for this time of year, mild levels down into the 40s. Could even see some rain showers. I'm going to let you know how much you're going to wake up to in the morning and how much of a problem it's going to be for the commute in my Weather Authority forecast.